So good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Crystal Cochran, and I'm a Senior Director at Hiring Our Heroes. Today, I'm truly thrilled to be joined by a panel of experts who will share with you some insights on the Department of Defense's Skillbridge program and how employers can utilize this tool and tap into it to truly strengthen their pipelines and diversify their workforce. As everybody's getting settled, I do want to start by level setting and ensuring that everyone understands what Skillbridge is before we're really off and running. So Skillbridge is a Department of Defense policy that allows transitioning service members to participate in civilian work experience and training while still on active duty. So they do this during their last 6 months of service with command approval. And the intent of the program really is to create a smooth pathway between their military careers and their civilian careers. So the idea truly being to lead to great career opportunities for these transitioning service members. And at the same time, as the benefit of creating a great talent pipeline for employers who are looking to participate. So with that, I'd like to kick off the conversation by asking our panel to introduce themselves, and we'll get started. Derek, would you start by introducing yourself?
Thanks, Crystal. Happy to be here. I count everyone in this virtual room and abroad as peers. A veteran myself, I work at Merck as a launch excellence lead. And my second hat that I wear is the global lead for the Veteran Leadership Network, which is our internal EBRG. So I can go on for days and days and weeks about this material, but happy to come in for the moment of Skillbridge and Hiring Our Heroes. Is a similar program here.
Thanks so much, Derek. Haley, let's pop over to you.
Awesome. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Haley Weaver. I have the honor of being the leader of the military relations team at the Home Depot. We are a team of veteran and military spouse associates who are dedicated to not only attracting and converting top talent out of the military community for the Home Depot, but also supporting those veterans in their careers, supporting their families in their careers, and celebrating their military service once they're associates at the Home Depot. Personally, before getting promoted and now taking over the team this summer, I spent the last 2.5 years as the actual program manager for the military fellowship program, and really got to be the one on the team to really stand up that program from the ground up and have a lot of really great lessons learned that I'm looking forward to sharing with you all today.
We look forward to tapping into that experience, Haley. Let me pop over to Cathy.
Hi, thank you so much, Crystal. I'm Cathy Miclat with Vets to PM. And our company, well, I'm the daughter of a veteran, and our company, Vets to PM, helps transitioning service members and military veterans achieve meaningful careers post-service. And we do that through certification training and through our career skill or career services, as well as through our DoD Skillbridge program. So I'm really excited. I established or stood up our Skillbridge program a couple of years ago and excited to have this conversation with everybody today. So thanks again for having me.
Thanks for being here, Cathy, and we're excited to talk about certifications for sure. All right, well, Matt, I think you'll wrap us up in terms of introductions.
I'm Matt Schulter. I know it says Charles. People. I am a process improvement consultant at Xcel Energy within the Governance and Enablement Office of Xcel Energy's supply chain section. I'm a recent transitioned Air Force member. As a force support officer within the Air Force for 7 years, and I actually am on terminal leave now, and just completed the Skillbridge program in September. So I was in the Skillbridge program with Xcel Energy from 1 May until 1 September. Coming with a little bit of a fresh perspective of what the Skillbridge program can offer to the service member. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for the opportunity, Crystal.
Congratulations on the transition. We're so excited to have you joining us, Matt. I think it would be great if we start with Cathy as a Skillbridge provider. So Cathy, as I think about Skillbridge, it's obviously simultaneously this unprecedented pathway for transitioning service members to connect to economic opportunity. And on the opposite side, hands down the most effective opportunity that employers have to tap into this talent pool. So I would love it if you would dive in a little bit on why this program is so unique and valuable to a transitioning service member.
Absolutely. Happy to talk about that. And before I go into the service member opportunity for the employer, it's an opportunity to really meet candidates that they would likely not otherwise meet, whether it be because of the resume not being effective, or whoever's looking at their application not really understanding what they did in the military. So it's a great way to get the employer to learn, what a veteran or a transitioning service member can bring to them. But for the service member, they get to explore corporate America while they're still on their service payroll, and it's a safe space. So we want to combat underemployment. We don't want people to come out and be underemployed. And that's, something that happens all the time. So it gives the service member a safe place to learn about corporate America before they're actually in it. And that's invaluable. You can't put a price on that. It also, it gives them the opportunity. They enter into a Skillbridge internship for a position they think they want in corporate America. So it gives them the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, this is exactly what I want. I love this. I'm thriving in this. I, chose the right pathway. But just as valuable, if they find out that it's not the right direction for them, they get to learn that before they get out of the military. So any way you look at it, it's a success. And that, both is just invaluable. They also get to learn the language of business while they're in the internship. So you come into the military, you spend X number of months or years getting indoctrinated into this industry, and you don't get that same indoctrination into corporate America. It's you're out, here's your job, learn it. So while you're in Skillbridge, you get to learn the language of business. We had a Skillbridge meeting with our interns this morning, and somebody who just got hired by your host company said, we asked him, what kind of things did you learn? And he said, well, looking at someone and having to remember their name, it's not on their uniform, who would think of that? But there are so many challenges for the service member coming out and just jumping into corporate America that even I, who've been in it for years, never would have. So it gives them the opportunity to learn about corporate America before they're in it and having to earn a living. So I think, that's just a little bit of what I can contribute to that question.
Thanks so much, Cathy. I 100% agree. And what I probably should also mention is Hiring Our Heroes, for those of you who don't know, is also a Skillbridge provider. We were one of the largest Skillbridge providers, so bringing some experience to that. And I couldn't agree more with Cathy's comments there that it is a little bit of a test drive, right, on both sides. And it is a peeling back the curtain on what it's like to work in the civilian workforce for our military, who by and large just don't have any experience with that. And I'll also agree with the comments on sometimes that test drive shows you what you don't want just as much as what you do want. We will have just short of 3,000 fellows at Hiring Our Heroes this year. And so excited that we have over an 80% job offer rate. So there's tremendous success behind these programs. But sometimes the success really is in figuring out before transition that the role or career that you thought was for you was not quite the right fit, and starting to have those opportunities opened up on what is the right fit. Thanks so much for that, Cathy. Derek, again, thanks for joining us. I want to pop over to you to ask, how has Merck tapped into Skillbridge as an opportunity?
So, right, there has to be an issue Skillbridge, right, in Hiring Our Heroes. And when I took on the global leadership role for the VLN within Merck, the context for our company, which is Merck in the US, which is where HOH and Skillbridge is facilitated, but we also have an entire other half of our company known as MSD around the globe, which also benefits from veterans in the international space. I know not necessarily associated to Hiring Our Heroes in this case, but the context was how are all these people connected internally at the company, and how do they work with each other, and how did they get here? Because without something like hiring our heroes in Skillbridge, it's the natural organic process that people come into industry, in this case, pharmaceutical industry, but also any industry once you leave the military. You know, historically, you would retire, you maybe have a network built that you drove yourself, and you would come out of service, and then you would look for that next opportunity if you didn't want to fully retire, and then you would shop yourself around. And that's the regular at bid process. So when I came in as global lead within Merck, I started looking at that and I started asking the question. And I said, well, look, I just joined the company. And, you know, if I want to drive my career up and forward, what does that look like? And then the recognition quickly came. We didn't have a skill bridge. We didn't have a hiring our heroes, you know, the mini version of Skillbridge or Skillbridge, however you articulate it. But we did not have an external talent pipeline built in to the U.S. Armed Forces. And I really saw that not only as a disservice as a veteran myself, but also a disservice to the company, because it was missing out on this key talent. So it really started with conversation, coming to the table and saying, this is not happening. Why is it not happening? We profess ourselves to be diverse, inclusive, and there's not much bigger diversity than in the US Armed Forces at this point in time within the US. And they also have experiences that, frankly, you just won't receive in the civilian or private sector unless you go after them, which is atypical of a lot of folks in the US. So I think it was the recognition of saying, how do we create opportunity space for veterans as they're transitioning out, these military service members, and how do we then bring them into the fold? And that beget a lot of questions, because the first thing to say is, maybe we want a talent pipeline, maybe we want a bridge into this, you know, anywhere from 150 to 200,000 individuals that come out of the US Armed Forces each year. Maybe we want to have these folks coming in. And it started there, and then we said, but where are they coming in at? Where do they come in with the regular organic process we have in place? And then where are they not coming in at? And why are they not coming in those places? And so I could count on, I'd run out of fingers and toes to count on all the pieces where, you know, veterans can come to this position, but not this position because they're not quite uniquely fit here. But at the end of the day, hiring our heroes, specifically Skillbridge, the umbrella that is Skillbridge, allows you to create points within the firewall that individuals can come through into the organization in positions that are atypically thought of as, you know, veteran friendly. And there's a lot of other things we do internally within Merck. You know, I really advocate for the Veteran Leadership Network internally as a platform to really bring in diversity, equity, and inclusion within the company, veterans especially. And we focus on those spaces where folks are not coming in, and also those areas of focus that are strengths, because having this talent come in is the first step. And then the second step is, how do we support and how do we grow those individuals? And so HOH is a short period of time, Skillbridge up to 6 months. And that's a short window. So it doesn't end there. And you also start to ask questions about how to support them internally as an employee, support their family, support their lives, and really grow them within the company. And I think that's what Skillbridge does for us. It allows us to carve a pathway and give it a very strong shot of steroids in the beginning point, where the military service members transitioning to the company into industry, they're becoming a veteran out of service, and then we can give that shot of steroids to really accelerate their transition, their support network, and bring them into the company and create opportunity space for them to grow, which is ideally what we want to see. We want to support people for their strengths and allow them to grow and support that growth. So that's what Skillbridge does for us at Merck. And I won't stop getting that one. So thanks, Crystal.
Thanks so much, Dirk. I appreciate that. Haley, I wanted to shift over to you. Home Depot's been very active in this as well. You all have been hosting interns for a while, and you obviously have the experience of having managed that program. So I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about what the process looks like at Home Depot, and why is this important to your team?
Absolutely. So we are very fortunate on the military relations team at the Home Depot. We sit inside talent acquisition. So we're able to have a lot more of those target conversations with our recruiter partners, with our HR partners, understand kind of what talent forecasting is for the business over the next few years, and really make sure that the military community and the military talent is part of that discussion. So we actually started up our Skillbridge program back in 2019. We utilized Hiring Our Heroes to really get that program out of the gate. And over that time, we've hosted over 100 service members through our various programs. And one of the key lessons that we learned early on was to not look at job titles when you're trying to look at which type of programs or which type of talent you're trying to search for. Instead, we actually switched it over to a skills-based program. So now on our fellowship program, we have about 10 different skills that we're able to recruit for. And this allows us to, one allows a service member when they're getting out of the military, and if they have an interest in project management or data analytics or software engineering or cyber or, name it, you can go on from there. They're able to apply to those specific skill-based programs. And then where it really is the valuable for us is when our team is going to talk to different host teams around the Home Depot, we're able to ask them, hey, we know that you have a talent need, but what specific skill sets are you hiring for? What specific skill sets do your teams need? Because an operations business analyst can mean 100 different things depending on the team that it is supporting. But at the end of the day, what exactly skills are you looking for? You need someone with project management skills. Do you need data analytics skills? And so when they tell us what they're actually looking for, we're able to help them. Well, hey, do you know we have a really great program? And then sell them on the program and really get them involved in that process. It also helps us too on the back end when we're going and we're talking to senior level leadership. We're looking at really great ways to expand our program. So for instance, being the Home Depot, supply chain management is a really growing part of our business as we're rapidly expanding across the country. And we're able to go to our senior level leadership and talk to them about, hey, what type of attributes are you looking for in a leader? What type of skill sets do they need to have when they're leading teams in our distribution centers? And then being able to tell them, we have the military fellowship program. This is the success that we've been seeing coming out of this program. These are the attributes that we're seeing from our candidates that meet very well to what you're looking for in your various success profiles of your distribution center leadership. And so being able to sell the talent and to be able to sell the skill sets for us actually has been a lot more successful versus saying, hey, I can get you, XYZ job title, which then allows us to be able to turn around. And now we have leaders coming to us and saying, hey, I'm looking for this type of talent. I've heard from, one of my colleagues that you have a really great program. How do I get involved? And then we're able to get them involved in our program and really expand it out that way. So that was one really key lesson that we learned early on, was to sell the skill sets and not so much the job title that this program can support.
Haley, I love the idea of the, really focusing on those skills. And that's so important as we have transitioning service members who don't necessarily roles as well. To your point, an HR business partner can mean many different things to different companies, for example. So thanks so much for that. Jumping over to Matt, as somebody who's recently transitioned and recently utilized this program, you completed an internship at Xcel Energy. So I'd love if you'd talk a little bit about your experience as a Skillbridge intern and why this opportunity was so valuable to you.
Differentiate a little bit from everybody else, but everybody's hit a lot of the main talking points that I say I really felt. Maybe it's a talking point to somebody else, but it was an emotional experience for me. Transitioning out, one of the biggest things is just what Haley had just said, where I was a force support officer. And what does that mean? How do I actually means? The most recent job title I had was the Chief of Military Personnel Programs. But how do I tell somebody what it is that is doing? The way that I did it was through the Skillbridge program and having the opportunity to really sit down with people at Xcel Energy and get the chance to say, here's who I am. It may say this on paper in my resume. You may see this, how I've described my, but here are the actual attributes that I'm bringing. Show that to you versus simply having it as a piece of paper that maybe you'll see at some point down the line. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was, Crystal, you and Cathy had mentioned Sometimes it's as much about what you come in and realize, okay, maybe this isn't the best fit, and then having a slight pivot. When I first came in as a Skillbridge intern, I was within the talent acquisition section, and I was helping with a lot of talent acquisition entities and items that they were going through. Because of the preponderance of the things that I've done within my military career, when you look at it at its face, is in the human resources sphere. But as I've been able to the opportunity to show and have the opportunity to learn while I've been at Xcel, is that my passion and what I really enjoyed while I was in the military was project management. Now that project management was within the human resources sphere, yeah, but what I was able to do and what I've been able to do with Skillbridge is to learn how Xcel wants people to manage projects. How can you take this project management experience from the military, directly move it over to the corporate world, and have the opportunity to really learn on the job and in a way that you really don't get anywhere else in another program or another job, another company that's going to allow you the opportunity to work for somebody else and continue to pay your paycheck with the hope and the goal for you to then work for that new employer. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And the fact that the military is offering that to both the service member, people like myself, and the employers, it's an opportunity that I think is just, that's how I felt about it as I completed the program. So nothing but great things to say about Skillbridge. And as has been mentioned, the opportunity to really get a chance to feel what it's like to be in the corporate world and have the opportunity to get the test drive within the corporate world as you're transitioning out was invaluable and something I'd be forever appreciative of.
That's awesome. That just kind of gives me all the feels, right? Matt, I cannot tell you how often we explain this program to people and get this response like, what? Like, Department of Defense supports this? I'm like, it's their idea. They started it. It's their policy. So you're absolutely right that I've never seen anything in the civilian world like this where one employer is paying to have somebody working at another employer. Well, what a great experience. Thank you so much for sharing on that. There's so many different types of opportunities and Skillbridge programs out there underneath this policy as part of it. Vets to PM has a great program based on certification training. So Cathy, I want to come back to you. Will you share a little bit about what that program looks like?
Sure. So our company started out doing certification training for active duty and transitioning service members to help them prove their fluency and validate their experience to corporate America in terminology and through certifications that corporate America understood. And we grew from there, incorporating or becoming a Skillbridge member. So one of the things that we like to do is we have 5 tracks really. We have tracks that follow our certification training, project management, human resources, IT, cyber, and general management. And so we are a facilitator, much like Hiring Our Heroes, where we facilitate internships for a host company and the intern. And we can incorporate certification training with the internship. So if it's project management, the host company wants a project manager, we get them a candidate that they interview, and then we pair PMP and Scrum Master certification with the internship. So we hold them for the first couple of weeks, do the certification training, then they go to their on-the-job training with the host partner while they're studying for their certifications. And the idea is to come out the other end of the internship with hopefully the job offer and a couple of certifications that validate their experience, improve their fluency, and again, all the other things we were talking about that help them learn the language of business. We also facilitate internships for companies that aren't within our 4 pathways. We can do it without the certification training. So we're working with 75 plus companies. We have, hundreds of interns doing amazing internships. And like Crystal, we've got over an 80% placement rate immediately at the end of the internship, whether it's with the host company or other companies. because as this third party or facilitator, we're having regular meetings with our interns. We're providing them career services, resume services, all the other things, while managing the internship with the DoD for the host company, so they can concentrate on their business and hosting their intern. So we're trying to meet the needs of the intern and educate them and train them as much as possible, or let the host do it, under our supervision.
Fantastic. Thanks, Cathy. And you mentioned a lot about working with employers and facilitating this for employers. So Haley, help me out if you would, and bring in the employer perspective. If an employer is thinking about diving into this pool of talent and hosting Skillbridge interns, what lessons learned would you share with them?
Absolutely. So here at the Home Depot, when we started in 2019, we started small and we were intentional. So that's kind of my first snippet of way to really get started in Skillbridge. So the first time out of the gate, we hosted one fellow, because you really don't know what you don't know until you actually have a service member, a military fellow working within your organization. So that allowed us to build a really great support team around that single fellow, support team that comprised of operations, HR, talent acquisition. And we started in our corporate level supply chain. And so we were able to really learn from that one initial experience. And we actually used Hiring Our Heroes, as I mentioned, to really kind of help us, get this program off to the right start, to be able to have some really great resources and partnerships available to employers, to be able to, make sure that they're supporting their fellow appropriately, as well as also working with that fellow on their post-fellowship transition plan and experience. So with that initial one fellow, we were able to learn from that process. So then the next cohort, we hosted 2. The next cohort, we hosted 6. And so now our program is up to hosting over 20 fellows every single cohort. So again, you have to start slow and you have to start intentional. As our program grows, we've encountered several hiccups. We've encountered growing pains along the way, but that's okay. This is still a really great process. And thankfully, a lot of the pain that we feel on the employer side, the fellow, for the most part, has no idea it's happening. They're just really grateful for the opportunity, which is really great for us, because then, it helps us to be able to continue to improve our program every single cohort. I know at the end of every single round, I always get with all my host teams and say, hey, how'd it go? What was your experience from hosting a fellow, and being able to learn from their experience and then turn around and make our program better and better. Whereas now we've developed our own internal curriculum that all of our military fellows go through to help make their transition a little bit more successful, coaching resumes, interview skills, the way that we do it here at Home Depot, and be able to really, again, set them up for success when they are starting to look at their post-fellowship career. So definitely start slow, build your support team. Your support team turns into your advocates. They're in different conversations with their business partners, and they're talking about talent, or they're talking about a potential business need that they're going to have at some point. Those advocates are able to say, hey, remember we partnered with the military fellowship program, had this really great success that came out of it. And then your program really just grows organically from there to now where we have host teams coming to us wanting to be involved. So it really makes our jobs easier, but it takes time to get to that stage. And it takes a lot, again, growing pains and lessons learned to get to that stage. And we're still learning. Our program is not perfect, but starting small is definitely the best way to do it. And then leveraging partners like Hiring Our Heroes to really make sure that you are getting this off the right start and providing a really great experience for your military fellows is super important.
I love that, Haley. Thanks so much. Our team also recommends every time, start small, start in one location, start with 1 or 2 fellows. It is amazing what you can learn with just 1 or 2 fellows. You do learn lessons really, really quickly. And the hiring managers will give you feedback on that, right? They'll let you know what they needed to know, how they would do things differently the next time. Fantastic guidance. Thanks. With that, I want to pop back over to Derek and really ask about those hiring managers a little bit. What's the value of a program like Skillbridge to the hiring managers at Merck?
Oh gosh, well, this is a broad topic, right? Because each hiring manager is a little bit different, and then they become your future staffing manager. So I've been having a heyday in the chat, trying to respond to people a little bit. It's one perspective, but hopefully it's a lesson learned. And just circling back to Haley's point, right? I started big. I said, whatever, let's just bring everybody in, find all these, positions that I know are going to need to be filled in the workforce. and let's go start filling them. And, to Haley's approach, that would have been like a sledgehammer as opposed to a scalpel. So the scalpel can definitely work and get your feet wet and build that trust from a stakeholder perspective. So I think that's a good approach. But the hiring managers themselves often, if they are not a veteran or military family, or particularly an HR person, they tend to be a bit more informed and holistic about it. Is alien, especially when they're coming directly from the military. And there's a concept that it's too risky for whatever reason. It's too risky to bring on a service member and have them come into the company. So I sell it to them. There's a couple values of doing this. One, you're not paying for it. The DoD is. Two, these are individuals who have developed military skill sets. Again, we'll circle back to my comments at the beginning that you're not going to see in your civilian workforce. And oftentimes, a military career, 20 years, is actually 40 years of civilian work when it comes to how much you're plugged in, right? It's a 24/7 job for some commanders, and even an NCO at that level, you're always on the clock, supporting soldiers, junior soldiers and junior enlisted. So I think it comes back to showing that to hiring managers that these are not just, recent interns that have just graduated from college that have very minimal experience, and you're coming in and you're not so certain about them. These are individuals that come in with a perspective and a mindset for execution. They can come in and they can learn quickly and adapt fast, and then they can really drive from perspectives that are diverse from outside of the organization. So it really is a shot of steroids bringing folks in. Now, that doesn't solve all of the problems. There's still, Haley alluded to some of these. There are some headaches on the business side. And capturing the full value of the veteran talent is something I've already seen in the chat, research cited here. It is a challenge because you're entering a different culture, a place where you don't have a name tag. Active leadership style is not the only leadership style that you can use. So we kind of bring it in as a difference of, look, you're supporting diversity within the company. We have our internal advocacy, our internal goals that we're trying to pull through. So you as a hiring manager are also meeting a key criteria that we've built into our D&I culture of the company, which is all of us have to participate in diversity and inclusion. And so having that there is a really easy carrot for me to come in and say, have you here, right? That can meet criteria that you're not otherwise meeting. So looking for those win-win scenarios and then finding why it's disagreeable for folks, I think is really key, because every organization's different and there's typically a reason why. It's not a very good reason, but there typically is a reason why an organization can't bring in a veteran, can't bring in, to Matt's point, a PM and have that PM, work in industry, which we know as a group, that's just not true. But you have to educate that. You have to show that to the hiring manager. And then at the same time, you can't just throw these veterans into these fellowships and expect that they're going to shine their brightest. So our VLN really battle buddies up with these individuals to make sure that they have a support network, right? Somebody outside their chain of command when they get to the company that they can run by and really work at. And so I think it's not just one thing, right? It's not just Skillbridge and that's it, right? There's all these extracurricular and auxiliary things that Haley mentioned, learnings, etc., that we as companies can really do a better job of really bolstering. But it comes back to really selling that to the hiring managers and then proving the concept, right? We take the risk as the Veteran Leadership Network, and we take ownership and accountability of those fellows. So if they're not performing, that's on us, and we're coming in to assist. And I think that creates, that relieves the risk and the anxiety that a lot of hiring managers have here. But frankly, to the point, if a hiring manager is stepping up to try this out, getting up to bat, that's the first step. I mean, they're supporting them as well is just as critical as supporting the fellow and making sure both parties are working as best that they can. And I think that kind of sums it up. Expect the best from people and really come in and just, as you know, an infantryman, put your boots to the ground and just continue the course and accomplish the mission. I think those are key, and I think that civilian counterparts in the private sector and public sector appreciate that, and that's what, you know, veterans kind of bring to the table. So finding those small wins and articulating it in a way that, you know, can impress on those hiring and staffing managers is pretty critical.
Great, thanks, Derek. So I'll wrap up the questions, and then we'll the questions to the panel, and then we'll try and hit on the questions that we're seeing coming in. Lots of good conversation going on there. So my final question is for Matt. As a recent completer, what would you offer up to employees as well in terms of how can they ensure that the program is successful both for them as well as for the fellows or interns?
Yeah. I would first and foremost realize that you're getting somebody who is with you for a reason. If I've chosen to Skillbridge with, as I did, Xcel Energy or the Home Depot or Merck, whatever the case may be, there's a reason that I selected that company. It be location, it being I enjoy what it is that your company does. So you're getting somebody who wants to work for you right off the bat. And not only do they want to work for you, but they want to work for you so much that they want to do it for free right at the onset. And to learn and to do it in a capacity that they're going to be able to demonstrate to you why that would be a good hire when the Skillbridge program ends. But I would also keep in mind that you're also going to get somebody who's probably going through one of the points in their life. You're getting out of an organization that you've been a part of. For myself, I did junior ROTC in high school. I went to the Air Force Academy, and then I did 7 years in the military. And so in some way, shape, or form, I've been associated with the United States Air Force since I was 14 years old. And now I'm coming into an environment where that is just no longer applicable. And it's stressful. I think anybody would say that if they're going through something like that, whether it's somebody who's any or doing a 25-year career, it's still going to be a stressful time. And so employer to understand that person for you is excited to work for you, has a passion to want to do their absolute best for you. To also understand that they're going through a difficult time, and to understand and to give them that opportunity to demonstrate to you where they could be successful. So I'd say those two things. But for people interested, one of the things that I saw earlier was, is it better to go through hiring our heroes or go through just doing it personally? And I'm sorry I popped out of the conversation for a second because the chat, everything froze. I had to re-enter. But just from somebody who went through it, I can tell you that there's an absolute appeal to going through it with hiring our heroes, because you're going to do it in a more rigid environment. You're going to have certain steps that you're going to go through with peers. It'll be done in a cohort. There's a lot of benefits to doing it in that fashion. For myself, I didn't do it through hiring our heroes or through the program. I did it straight with the company. And the reason that I chose that was because it offered me just a slightly more amount of flexibility. Now, that's not to say that that would be good or bad for anybody in any given situation, but for myself, that flexibility was key. And it allowed me to go into Xcel, as I said during the first question, see that talent acquisition really wasn't exactly where I was going to fit, and be able to pivot into the supply chain section and to take that project management and process improvement skills that I gotten from the Air Force and then transition into Xcel. So a lot of those things. That's a long answer, but I don't think there's a right or wrong way for people to go about entering the program or hosting the program, whether it's through an organization like Hiring Heroes or just doing it on your own. Giving a veteran the opportunity to come and work for you is something that is in itself. So appreciate that.
Super helpful, Matt. Well, I know we have just about 3 minutes left, and we've got a lot of questions coming in. So I'll remind all of our audience that I know Cathy and I have already seen have put our contact information in the chat. For the rest of our panelists, if you are willing to be contacted, please make sure you've put your contact information in there as well. But I do want to ask the panel, have you seen any questions coming in that you feel like it would be great for us to take on in our last few minutes?
One of them was, what is needed in order for an employer to start getting connected with fellowship candidates. There's a couple of different ways. You can go to the DoD Skillbridge website and apply to become a Skillbridge host yourself. So that's a process. You have to be vetted by the DoD. There's a waiting period to get approved and get an MOU. So that's one way to do it. And then to manage the program like Merck does on their own. Or maybe Merck works with Hiring Our Heroes. I'm not sure, but many companies manage it on their own. Another way is to work with an organization like Vets2PM or Hiring Our Heroes that, I can speak for Vets2PM, we manage the process for the employer. So we're the DoD approved Skillbridge provider. So we do all the paperwork and all of that for the employer. So using a facilitator or a third party organization can kind of take some of that workload off of your desk and work it that way. So, and many companies will use a facilitator until they get approved and learn the program. There's many different ways to do it.
Great. I was thinking about that question as well, Cathy. And, the bottom line here is that there's 200,000 transitioning service members every year. This is not a competitive space.
Not at all.
We're all looking to help. There's plenty enough fellows to go.
We're all busy.
So for people who are looking to get their feet wet in it, it can be daunting, kind of going through some of that red tape. And that's why very often an organization will come to something like Vets2PM or Hiring Our Heroes as a start. We have a lot of employers we're working with who are simultaneously working with us and building their own Skillbridge programs like Haley talked about. So, I would recommend everybody to consider those pathways as they're getting started. I know we're just about out of time, so there's a couple things I really want to close on. One is I would be completely remiss and just out of character if I didn't mention military spouses. And policy is about transitioning service members because it's a policy and we don't generally build policy around military spouses. There are a lot of Skillbridge opportunities that are specifically geared towards military spouses. And as I know most of our audience knows, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, this is an amazing way to get past what is a very high and underemployment rate for military spouses because they move fairly often and don't have a network in the areas they're living in. So there's actually a whole landing page on the Skillbridge website that lists providers who offer opportunities to military spouses. I'm extremely proud to say Hiring Our Heroes is one of those, and we continue to grow that program. Outside of that, the bottom line of this discussion here is that if your team is not already heavily leaning into this and using this as a primary means to attract military talent, you're behind the power curve, right? So pull your team into this. And if your team is already utilizing it, then hopefully this conversation has stimulated some ideas on how to maximize the value of it, how to scale it inside of your team, because at the end of the day, it really is the most valuable opportunity you have of this sort. I want to thank each of our panelists for bringing a great conversation to here and sharing their wisdom and experience again to our audience. Thank you for so many great questions. I wish we had more time to get to them, but do feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the panel with your questions. We're obviously very passionate about this and more than happy to respond to you and help out and get you answers. With that, I will say thanks again for tuning in, and I will send it back to our organizers.